I'm Sahiti Duri, and today we are here to me and my colleagues are here to present about the demonstration video about a project component 4. So I'll be covering about the servlet code as well as the JSP codes. So firstly, in order to implement servlet code, we need to add a dependency, which is servlet API.jar, and then after adding the dependency, we need to import the certain packages to execute the servlet code, and they are import jakarta.servlet.star, servlet.http.star, and the annotation, which is very important, and then import java.io.star. So here, while creating the login.java class, a login class is already created. So here, what I did is I extended HTTP servlet. I extended it to HTTP servlet class so that the main functionality of the servlet code is present in this class. And after this, I'll be the main method which is used is doGet method. Here the whole point of using a doGet method is to get the request from the browser and to send back the response to the client. So I've used HTTP servlet request and the HTTP servlet response as the object parameters for this doGet method. So what I did is here we've created two strings to pass the input parameter, which is username and password according to the requirement, and then I've created a variable called out for the print writer function so as to send back the response to the client, and we've registered the driver on the Oracle driver, and then we've used the Oracle GMU database for setting up the connection. After that, in order to set the connection, we've accessed our database credentials, and we've entered the username and the password, and I've set the connection using create statement. And after so for the as per the requirement, we are supposed to display the yes colon pass id for that particular username and password. If at all, if that particular username and password is present in the table, then we are supposed to print, otherwise it should print no. So that is what we've written in the code. Next, I'll be going to the JSP execution. So here it is definitely simpler than the servlet code because we are not adding any dependencies, not importing any packages. So here it is similar to servlet. We've established a connection to the database. After that, we've considered, so get parameter, what it does is it accepts the input parameter, and while executing the code in the URL connection, there we are supposed to dynamically enter the get parameter variable. So here what we've done is we've displayed flight id, flight miles, destination as the query, and dynamically we are passing the PID as the parameter. Then using result set, we'll be executing this particular query, and we'll be passing this variable into this, and then we'll be appending the result using our result set dot get object as it's a string, and then it's a varchar, so definitely it's considered to be a string. So we'll be using get object, get int, and get object. Get int because it's flight miles, and then we'll be closing the connection. Similarly, for the flight details, we are passing the input parameter as flight id, and we are displaying following columns, and we are appending the result and closing the connection and printing the output using out.print, which is a basic function to print the output. And then for get passengers, we are using PID as the input, and p.passId will be displayed as the output. For info.jsp, similarly, PID will be the input, and p.pname total points from certain tables will be printed. And for the redemption tables as well, award ID and PID are the input parameters, and description points required redemption center from certain tables will be displayed according to the requirement. And for the transfer points as well, we'll be passing the input parameters, and output will be displayed using certain queries. Now my colleague Spurti will be explaining about the execution part. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Purti, and as we have already seen the codes, let's get into the execution of these JSP pages as well as the servlet. So first we have to save this servlet, and for this we'll use the save option and then build the servlet using right clicking here and using the build. Once we get build success, let's see where these how we execute that. For that we have to get into the so for that we have to get into once we build, we have the saved in the NetBeans project. For our convenience, we have we have already saved it on the desktop, and this is our login servlet folder. Here we get into the target folder and then classes folder, and here we have the login.class file saved. We copy paste this class file, and what we have to do next is we have to paste this in the Apache Tomcat folder, and where exactly, let's see. So we have to go into the web apps folder and create a new folder. For our application, we have created a new folder called frequent flyer, and in frequent flyer we have to create another new folder and name it as web dash inf, and we have to make sure that all these are in uppercase letters and also separated by a hyphen. In web.inf we create again a new folder and name it as classes file, and this folder, all the classes should be in, the name should be in a lowercase. In the classes file we have to copy paste the login.class file we have copied, and once we copied, we'll run the Tomcat server, and for that we'll go into the terminal, and let's go to the Apache Tomcat file and then bin, and next let's use this to give access for the Mac, and then we start the Tomcat. Let's check if our Tomcat started. So we press the URL here, http 127, and yeah, so the Tomcat is running successfully. So let's execute the servlet, the login.servlet. For that our URL is this, yeah. So here we have the login page, and then we pass the parameters, username and the password, and we get the output yes and 8. So this is how we do a servlet execution, and to execute our JSP pages, let's it's much simpler. We have to save all these JSP pages which we've written in the NetBeans in the Apache Tomcat folder, and where exactly I will show you. So we go to the Apache Tomcat folder and in the web apps, and then we save all the JSP pages in the frequent flyer folder, as you can see. So let's execute each one by one. So first up we'll execute so first up let's execute our info.jsp page. For that we have the URL info.jsp and passing the passenger ID as a parameter. So let's take 002, and this is the info page, and then let's execute here. Make sure you have to give the folder in which we've saved our JSP pages. So as we have done info, let's go to flights.jsp. So the next is flights.jsp, and here we pass the parameter passenger ID 001, and next we have flights details.jsp. So the flights details.jsp, yeah, this is also successful. Here we pass the passenger flight ID as our parameter, and next we have awards.jsp, where we pass the passenger ID as a parameter, and this is it's still running, yeah. So this is the awards assigned to the passenger, and next up we have redemption details page, and for that we pass the parameters award ID and PID, and this is what the redemption details will give the output as. And after redemption page we have what else we are left with? Yeah, we have the get passengers ID. So let's do get passengers ID, and the PID is 30, and we have the output as you can see, yeah, this. Then we have after passenger ID we have transfer points, the final JSP page. So this is the transfer points, and we have we are passing 3 parameters to this, as you can see, and yes, the transfer is successful, is printed. The next part will be continued by my colleague.
Hello everyone, I am Harshini, and I'll be explaining the Java code of the Android activities. Since we have 6 activities, we'll be writing the Java codes in 6 different individual pages named main activity 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So here is our main activity dot class file, and the GUI components of this are given in activity main.xml file. Here we have few text views and buttons. So here we are converting the GUI components into Java objects using the find view by ID method, and this find view by ID will get the ID of the components in the we can find it on the activity main.xml file. So here for the button we need to write listener method. We need a listener for the button. So when we click the button, it needs to execute a set of action. For this, we use this set on click listener, which is a listener that listens to the click events of the buttons. Here the on click method, so the on click method performs actions we need within the method. And here we first create the request queue, that is request queue is equals to body.new request queue, and the inner class which we are in, that is main activity dot this. And so before doing this, we'll actually do few configurations, the 3 configurations in android manifest.xml file. So the first one is users permission, which gives permission to the internet, and the second one is the user's clear text traffic, that is used to send the traffic without encryption. And the third one is uses library, so we are giving permissions to the Apache legacy. And then in project file, we'll have a lib folder. So here we will be uploading the body.jar. This body.jar is used to connect to the servers over the internet. So coming back to our main activity.java, here we are giving the URL. So in Android, the URL format is 10.0.2.2 as the local host. And then we have this string request method. So then after the URL, we will create the request object. We use this get request method to connect to the web server. Now the second argument here we give is our URL, and the third argument is response.listener, and the fourth argument is response.error_listener. So we'll use this on response method when we get response from this URL. And here we can see our output. If we get an yes, then we'll create an intent. So this intent is used to send the parameters to the different classes. So here we are sharing this pass id to different main activity 2.class files, and we'll start our intent here. And next we have main activity 2. So in main activity 2, you can see the GUI components in activity main.2. Here we have a different thing called image viewer. So in the same way, we will create objects, Java objects for this, and for the string URLs, we'll write on response method. And here is our result. We are trimming it, that is we are removing the characters that are being attached by JSP pages, servlets and everything. And here on clicking this button, we'll be jumping into a different class, that is main activity 3, main activity 4, 5 and 6. Next we have main activity 3. So here also we have few text views. So again we are creating Java objects for this, and we have a new thing called array list here. So this is a list. So we will be adding the rows to the list, and here is our result. We are trimming the result. We are splitting it using the hash and a comma, and then setting the result to the text views. Next we have main activity 4 and the GUI components of main activity 4. We have a spinner over here. So we are also creating an object for spinner, that is spinner is equals to find view by id, and we can find the id of the spinner in the activity main4.xml file. So here we have an array list. So here what we are doing is we are adding all the items which have to be added to the spinner. Then we have array adapter. This method takes 3 arguments. The first one is the inner class which we are in, and the layout which it supports, that is a spinner, and the list we want to add to it. And then we are adding it to the spinner.setAdapter, and we are adding the request to the queue. So when we select item on the spinner, we get into set on item selected listener and into on item selected. Here we have a different URL. We are giving a request, and we'll get the output, and we'll be writing that to the text views. It is same with regarding main activity 5. We have its GUI components in activity main5.xml. Same, we have a spinner. We are converting it into a Java code. So here we have an edit text method. Then we have this main activity 6. Similarly, in the same way, we are writing the Java objects for it. We have a array list, string request, adding it to the queue. So here we have this edit text. We can get this value by using .getText method. and we are writing the output to the text view. And now I'll hand it over to my colleague.
So I'm Kirti and I will be explaining the running of the Android activities with the Android Studio emulator and would be demonstrating the functionality and interaction with the servlet and JSPs. So for the running, first let us go back here. So while playing this run button here, we are going to get our emulator. So the first is the main activity where we are going to give a username and password in the text fields. So I'm giving Harry, and the password for us is password password 1. So in the button we have the login. So on clicking the button, this is going to direct us to the main activity 2. So the main activity 1 previously lies on the login servlet we created, and this main activity 2 lies on the info.jsp created. So we have a sample of 5 photos in our database, and here we can see that we have this welcome back text in the text view. Harry is the name of the passenger and this is his photo, and here we have the reward points, which is 1303. So we have these buttons in this main activity 2, which redirects us to the main activity 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we also have the exit button to exit from this application. So on clicking the first flight details, we are redirected to the main activity 3. This page is relying on the flights.jsp and is the result of its execution. So here we have the flight details of the passenger, where we have the flight ID, miles and the destination. And while clicking the all flights, this will redirect us to the main activity 4, and this page relies on the flights.jsp for the spinner value. So we have the spinner here where we can select the different flights that are assigned to the passenger. So we have only one flight as of now, which is FL001, and when we select this, so we get the departure time, arrival time and the miles, and we also get the trip ID and the trip miles. And we go back to the main activity 2. Okay, here when we click on the redemption info, we are redirected to the main activity 5. So here, same as the before, we can select the award ID here. So we have only one award, so we are going to select this, and it gives us the price description, which is the following, and the points needed, and it also displays the redemption date and the exchange center. This page is relying on the awards id.jsp for the spinner, and for this part of the thing, it relies on redemption details.jsp. So coming to the main activity 6, for that, in the main activity 2, when we click on the transfer points button, we are redirected to the main activity 6, where this page totally relies on the get passengers ID for the JSP, for the spinner, sorry, and the transfer points.jsp for the other functionality, which is the transfer points functionality. So in this page, we are going to select the passenger ID to whom we want to transfer the points. So I'm selecting 2, and the points to be transferred can be entered here, which I'll select 3 points. And on clicking the transfer points, we can see a message that will be displayed, which is 3 points transfer successful. In order to check the transfer of the points, we can go back and again check for Harry, and on clicking the rewards, we can see here 1300, which is previously we had 1303 and now it is 1300. So 3 points are transferred from passenger ID 1 to 2. So we have this exit button to go back. So this is the working of our Android application. Thank you.